Hi, guys. We're back again. Before I go too much further in this, let me say a couple of things quickly. I appreciate you guys watching. I really do. I'm getting comments almost daily of people saying, "Hey, I was watching your stuff. I was at Chick-fil-A last week, and one guy there that I know said, 'Hey, I've been watching your videos.'" And I was like, "Hey, it just makes me feel good that know that you guys are watching. I hope that this is beneficial. This is not just we're tolerating Robert and his thing he's doing and we're watching it just to support a friend, but instead you're actually watching something that is possibly beneficial to you. I hope that's the case. I also found out that my aunt has been sharing this on Facebook. I see several of you sharing this, but my aunt Janet's been sharing this on Facebook, and because of that, my brother has watched it. And so I didn't know my brother had been watching this stuff. I'm not sure why he hasn't been watching it on my Facebook post, but he's probably not checking my Facebook post. He doesn't care what his younger brother's doing. But he's been watching, and so that was good to hear him. It seems like my whole life I've always tried to impress my brother and make him think I was doing cool stuff. So it's good to know that he's watching as well. So if you're watching this one, yay, thank you. So anyway, so one more thing I want to say before I go into today's topic is this. There are people on YouTube that seem to have the desire to search out Christians who post things, and especially apologists who post things, and they want to try to call them out and want to try to argue with them and debate with them. Let me just go ahead and say this for the record right now. If that's you, I'm not your guy. I'm here to post what I believe and why I believe what I believe for those who are interested in finding out about it and hearing about it and seeing the reasons. If you are looking for a guy to argue with, there are people out there. They will do it. I'm not your guy. I'm just not going to. So if you're sending me messages trying to call me out, I'm not going to do it. Just let it go, man. Watch somebody else. If you're not interested in this, you don't believe in this, cool. That's between you and God, brother. But just go find somebody else. You're not going to call me out. You can keep trying. I'm not coming. I'm just not going to fight with you. I just don't think God will honor me arguing with you about this. If you have legitimate questions, you want answers, I will answer any questions you have. But if you're wanting to argue with me, or you want to try to convince me I'm wrong or whatever, just go somewhere else. I'm just not your guy. I'm not going to convince you. You're not going to convince me. Let's move on, man. It's a happy world we can all live in together. If you disagree with me, so be it. I probably disagree. Well, I do disagree with you, so it's okay. But if it is your goal to try to convince me I'm wrong, or try to bash me, or try to, belittle me, or get people to not listen to me, you keep trying. But I'm not going to come out and debate with you. Just let it go. So there's that. So here we go. We're moving on. Today, we're still coming up on the resurrection. So I'm talking about today the empty tomb, because the empty tomb is the problem for the skeptics. Anybody who says that never happened, the empty tomb's a problem. And this is part of the reason why. I give you some of the reason. When the disciples started saying, "Hey, look, he rose again," the Jews started saying, "Oh, no. They stole the body. They came in the night and stole the body." Well, if there wasn't an empty tomb, why were the Jews saying that? Why did they say that the disciples came and stole the body? They would have just said, "Oh, there he is. See, he's right there." There's no reason to accuse them of stealing him if the body was there. So the tomb was empty. If not, like I said, they could just say, "Nope, see, there he is. There's his body." So there was no reason to say he stole it if it was there. If there was no reason for anybody, they could automatically disprove it. Hey, he's risen. Nope, he's in the tomb right there. Boom, push back. The way a tomb worked back then, just so you'll know, there was the whole body puts in. There was a trench that came uphill. This is history here. The stone was in that trench, would roll down over this. There was a rock here that kept it from rolling. Roll in front of it, boom. It was heavy, and it was definitely meant to be a heavy stone that really needed some movement by some people. So they would have had to say, "Let's get this thing and push it out of the way," and say, "Nope, he's still there." Another thing is as we talked about last time, historians reference the mischievous or the pernicious, whatever the word you want to go with, superstition that arose, which all historians pretty much say is that belief in the resurrection arose after that. And if that's the case, why are none of the historians saying the belief in the resurrection arose even though it was proven to be wrong because his body was found in this empty tomb, or in this tomb that was called empty? Why no historian said that? Also, the historians, these are historical facts, remember, not the Bible you don't want to believe in, but the historical facts. Why are none of them saying these Jews, these Christians, these Jewish Christians who had accepted Christ, believed in all this, they're being put to death by Nero or whoever for something that has been proven to be wrong? None of them said that. They are actually presented as people who genuinely believe what they see, what they say they saw. And so the historians are not necessarily saying these are idiots. They're dying for something that the Jews proved were wrong. The religious leaders of the Jewish sect came out, rolled the stone away, said, "There's the body right there." And these people are still willing to die for it. So that's evidence there that you can believe there was an empty tomb. That's not proof of an empty tomb, but you can't prove anything in history. You can only show evidence of it and interpret it how you want. But this was strong. This is strong here, that nobody said, hey, but they're dying. We're talking about, last time I covered about 12. I think it was 12 is what we counted. Historians or rulers or different people who wrote letters at the time, historical documents that reference Christians dying, and for their belief, and none of those said, they're dying for something stupid because they know it's not true. It's been proven not to be true. They would have said that. Somebody would have. You can say, "Oh, how will you know what they're going to say?" Don't be ludicrous. If they're going to say, "Hey, Christians are being killed by Nero because they still believe in Jesus," one of them would have said, "Even though we've proven it, there was an empty tomb." Also, is this: if the tomb wasn't empty and you're making it up, and I've mentioned this before, the testimony of females at the time was not considered valuable in court. I don't know exactly why. I do know that women were not educated at all. Men were allowed to be educated. Women were not. I know it's misogynistic, and hey, men are dogs. Okay, I get it. But because of that, for some reason or another, women were not considered valid testimony. Not that they never listened to them at all, but if it came down to a man said it and a woman said it, you're going to listen to the man first. That's just what it was. So if you're going to make this up, you're going to say there wasn't an empty tomb, but you're going to say there was. Why not have a man come and say, hey, this tomb is empty. Why not one of the disciples? Or, hey, it was Joseph of Arimathea's tomb. Why not have him find it empty? He was the one loaning the tomb. Now, you have to understand why he was loaning a tomb, because you have to say, well, how was this a borrowed tomb? And people say, oh, he only borrowed it because he knew he'd only need it for 3 days. That's not necessarily so. A tomb was a different thing. A body was put in there, the cloth was wrapped over them, and they were left for a year. And then at the end of the year, you came out, and after the flesh had decayed and rotted, you peeled off that nasty cloth that had also rotted and decayed with it, and you took the bones and you put them in what's called an ossuary, which is a box. It's called a bone box, basically. An ossuary is a box. You put the bones in. And then you took those and put them someplace. That was what they did. That's just what they did. So Joseph was only loaning his tomb because, he's expecting them to, put Jesus' bones in a box eventually. He might have let the box stay in there as well, but he was loaning it for that reason. But he could have said, hey, this is my tomb, and I'm looking in it, and there's the body right there. Or we could have used him, if we're going to make it up, we could say, Joseph of Arimathea, he's the one that found it. And he said, there ain't no body there. It's empty. It's his tomb, man. He should know. So you got some issues with the empty tomb here. Some of the skeptics' theories on the resurrection are are ludicrous. The first one, this one's kind of been thrown out by most scholars now anyway, but it's the swoon theory, meaning he didn't die, he just swooned, he just fainted. He wasn't really dead. After being beaten by this whip, 40 lashes, and if you studied this at all, this whip was meant to almost kill them. Many people died in history based on being beaten by that whip. Then he carries the cross as far as he can, and can't anymore, somebody has to take over. Then he's nailed his arms out. You can't see my arms, but his arms are nailed out. His feet are put together and nailed. And then he's stabbed in the side at the end there to make sure that he is dead. Even if he was just fainted, all of that happened to his body. And then he was wrapped up and put in Joseph's tomb. And then on the third day, he woke up and went, whew, after all that blood loss, after all that beating, after holes in his hands, it's suggested here, not necessarily here, but you have to understand that they considered all of this the hand. This is here too. The base of the hand is still the hand, so you're arguing from the kiddie pool if you're going to argue about the hand. His feet nailed, all that stuff. He gets up, pulls off the shroud that's over him, goes over, rolls that stone away, comes out and walks around, and in his present condition convinces people that he rose from the dead. He's going to look more like the Walking Dead with looking like that. It's going to grab. It's going to be bad. I'm sure that looked great for all of you people when you see the video later. But there was nothing inspiring about his condition to make people say, he's God. Look at him. He rose from the dead. That's a ludicrous notion. It really is. Most people, and if we're going to cover some of the doctors who've described the condition of a body after a crucifixion. We're going to talk about that soon as well. But there's just no way that happened. And the next one, and I'm looking at my notes here, and I'm getting tickled when I see it. The next theory, and this is a legit skeptic theory, okay? And I'm not trying to mock anybody, but it's just, I can't help with this one. The theory is that Jesus had a twin. At birth, there were two of them. And they hid one of them and let Jesus live his life and start his ministry and preach all this stuff and perform these miracles and nailed to the cross, all along planning with this guy back here that when I let them kill me, you're going to come out and say, look at me, I'm still alive. And you're going to start a global religion based on that. But I'm willing to let them kill me so that you can go and be God. And they, for 30-something years, kept this dude hidden for this one reason. Yeah, I just can't. I'm not even going to go there. But the problem is this: there's still an empty tomb because the one idiot twin who was willing to die for this thing, and so the other guy could live. He's buried somewhere. There's no tomb. He's not empty. It's not empty. I mean, it is empty. Sorry, there's nobody in this tomb. He's somewhere, and so once again. If the disciples said, hey, look, he's not here. If they had stolen that twin's body, once again, it would be easy for them to say, we did this, but we're going to talk about the conspiracy theory in a minute. But clearly, once again, that means there was an empty tomb. Whether it was a twin or not, it means there was an empty tomb. Because the Jews didn't say, wait, no, here he is. We're going to talk about the conspiracy in just a second as we end here. But a couple more theories is this, that all the people who saw him had a hallucination or a vision of him. I will tell you that mass hallucinations are rarer than you can imagine. They're not this like this. But the other thing is this, the visions, supposedly, if there were visions, happen chronologically. It's not like at noon on Sunday we all saw Jesus in our own, where we were. He appeared to this guy, and then he appears to this guy. And then they go and tell this guy, and this guy says, oh, really? I'm not sure I'll believe it. And then Jesus appears to them and him all together. So it's happening chronologically. So a hallucination didn't happen all at noon on Sunday. It happened chronologically. But once again, there's still an empty tomb. So even if we had a vision of this hallucination of the risen, and he was still there dead, then where's his body? Why is he not in that tomb? The empty tomb is still an issue. Another thing is that this one's funny too. That the ladies who went the morning of, and then Peter and John who came later, went to the wrong tomb. They were confused as to which tomb it was. They were distraught over this horrible thing that happened, and they went to the wrong tomb. I'm sorry, I get tickled over thinking how desperate you people are seeking for a way to say it didn't happen. That's just, you're being foolish if you believe that. To say there was a wrong tomb, because here's the thing. When the disciples said, look, see, here's an empty tomb, da, 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 the Jews could have said, what? That's the wrong tomb. It's here. Look, see, he's in there. Idiots. But that didn't happen. They said, they stole the body. So they were at the right tomb, and that body was gone. So it's a real problem. Because another theory is that it was just a spiritual resurrection. He didn't really rise physically. It was a spiritual. When they talk about the resurrection of Jesus, they're really just talking about a spiritual resurrection. Once again, empty tomb. That still doesn't explain it. Another one, and then we're going to get on the conspiracy theory and be done, is this, that it was just a missing body, that he was never buried. It was common knowledge that sometimes criminals, because they were criminals, they didn't deserve an honorable burial, were just thrown in a common grave, just thrown in a pit for the animals to eat their bodies. And it's obviously that's where Jesus was. That's why he was never in the tomb. Joseph said he buried him in the tomb, but he was never in the tomb, because they didn't bury crucifixion victims. Well, that's not necessarily the case. We can't prove that didn't happen to Jesus per se, except for the eyewitness testimony later, and we're going to cover that in a second. But we do have two things that suggest, well, we have three things. Joseph of Arimathea, when they said, hey, the tomb is empty, he could have come up and said, oh, I never put him in there. He's not in there. I didn't put him in there. He could have done that. Another thing is we have an ossuary, the Johannine ossuary. This is a bone box that has a foot bone that has a stake still in it. When they took this crucifixion victim off the cross, the stake wouldn't come out. So they just left it in. So that means that this crucifixion victim was put into a tomb, and then a year later was put into a bone box, not thrown into a common pit grave and eaten by animals. Also the Shroud of Turin. Now, you can say the Shroud of Turin is not the Jesus wrapping if you want to, and we're going to talk about that in a couple weeks. But if it's not Jesus, that's okay. But it is a crucifixion victim. That is clear, which means that this crucifixion victim was buried in a tomb and wrapped in a shroud, like a normal buried person was. So that's two different evidences of two different crucifixion victims that were not thrown in a common grave. So you can't say, well, Jesus was, though. Not considering all the other evidence we have here. And the last thing is conspiracy theory. Like I said, if they had moved the body, if they had stolen the body, like was said, and I've said this before, these 11 men, remember Judas was gone, these 11 men decided to lie about this whole thing, to trick all these people into believing he lived again, and were willing to die and to watch other people die for something they know was a lie. Now, religious zealots will die for something that's false, but they're designed for something they believe in. This is their staunch religious beliefs. They don't believe it's a lie. They believe it's true. Well, these gentlemen would have known that it was a lie because they're the ones that stole the body. So they would have been willing to die and to sit back and let other people die in horrific deaths. I've told you before about Nero. They fed people to animals. They put them on stakes in his backyard and set them on fire so that as they were burning, they would light his evening parties in his backyard. Many of them were crucified. Many of them were beheaded. Many of them were stoned to death. A martyr's death was not a comfortable thing. It wasn't a quick thing. It was a suffering thing. And these people are all willing to do this for something they know was a lie. It is foolhardy to believe that would have happened, and not one of them would have said, "Oh, okay, nope, sorry." I saw you crucify him. I saw you feed that one to animals, and I saw you burn that guy to a stake. And now you're talking about what you're going to do to me. You know what? We lied. I'm sorry. No, 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 no. We lied. I'm not seeing that way. It's you shouldn't see it that way. If you say, well, it could have, if you're going to hold on to that, then you are just making the decision to not believe. Period. No matter what. Um, and that's just a foolish notion to say that. Um, and don't hear me yelling at you for doubting, because doubting is okay. But when you get faced with the evidence, be reasonable, be rational. Don't hold to your staunch beliefs just because. Um, I've doubted. I have. I've said, God, where are you? Why? Many times. I've wondered why this is. Some of it didn't make sense. Hey, if you're Jesus, why don't you just come off the cross and prove it right then? I've said those things, and I've gotten those answers myself. So don't hear me saying that, I'm smarter than you. I've said this before. I'm just like you. I've made one decision different than you have. And I'm just a wicked man. See you next time.